What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in. I have a tremendous guest with us today, so we're going to jump right in there and get right to it. So, in 2001, Scott Sunderland found himself going from a 35-year-old athletic father, husband, and business owner to lying in a hospital bed, unable to move. Using visualization techniques over the course of a year, Scott was able to heal himself. However, old limiting beliefs, past traumas, and disempowerment mental habits came back to haunt him when in 2012 he watched his best friend drown in front of his eyes. Blaming himself, he was broken once again. Standing in a room on fire, Scott was faced with running through those flames to end up at the empowered life that he lives now. Today, he shows others how to run through their own flames to find freedom from their own minds and limitations in order to live a life of passion and purpose. Scott, welcome to the show.
Larry, great to be here. Love it.
You know,
really happy to be here.
It's awesome that we finally, I think this is our third attempt.
Yeah.
It's been months in the making. So this is going to be epic that we finally get to share this time together. And I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
You know, your story interests me quite a bit. And I'll tell you why, because, you know, most, if not all of my listeners, other than maybe some new listeners here now, know that as of 8 years ago, I was an alcoholic. And I went into rehab 8 years ago. November 13th was the actual anniversary for 8 years of just, so it's been just a couple of weeks. But after coming out of rehab, and it was for alcohol, I had done so much damage to my body overall that I found myself unable to move. I walked with a cane when I could walk. I was on tons of medication because the pain, people go, what hurts? And everything from the joint in my pinky toe. I think there's a joint in your pinky toe. From the joint in my pinky toe all the way to the joint in my thumb, and every joint in between was literally just on fire all the time. And I did this forever. I couldn't move. I couldn't function. It was the worst thing. And to double that, because of my previous addiction, certain pain doctors that I went to thought I was just coming there for drugs. And I'm like, guys, no, I'm really looking. I left multiple doctor's offices literally in tears because of the way they treated me, because they figured I was just a junkie there running a scam trying to get some oxy or something. And that wasn't the case. So I can relate to where you were there. And I'm curious to hear more about how you overcame your somewhat similar situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting. You know, you talking about that. It is the awakening, I guess. You know, you went through yours, I went through mine. Basically, you know, how it all started for me was I owned a construction company, did back then, still do, and just was working out of control, scared to death. Everybody was going to fire me. And, you know, I couldn't, my projects were behind and I had deadlines. I was afraid that people weren't going to pay me. I was away from home on the road. And I kept thinking, you know, I just really want to go home and I want to go to bed. I just want all this to go away. I am just so stressed out that I am disappointing everyone, you know, and, 3 months later, there I was laying in the hospital bed, and I thought, "Oh my God, I asked for this. This is you, dude. You did this." So we have a choice. We can go down the road to think, "I'm never going to walk again. I'll never get out of this bed," or we can recreate. It's like the old Steve Austin. Remember the $1 Million Man? We can rebuild him. We can rebuild him. And that's really just that's the kind of the line I took. You know, it was just, okay, so here's the challenge. Let's do better. Let's rebuild. And I really did that. I mean, literally rebuilt myself. Like you said, through visualization and really my thought process. And I believed, I was so into, all the teachers, whether it's Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, you name it, we create our reality. And I thought, okay, well, here you go. Let's see what we can create. And it was amazing to me watching, the journey as the first person of, yeah, learning to walk again, all of it, learning to talk again, just the simplest things that we would take for granted. And I would watch people coming in and out of my room and think, what is it that I was once connected to that switch has been turned off?
Right.
Whatever that was is gone now. It abandoned me. And I got to find it again. I got to get it back. And that's really where it all was for me, is
So
really
was this
understanding that I am bigger than the sky Scott.
was it really just was it an overnight type of scenario,
Yeah,
or did you find yourself spiraling and
no,
finally ending up in a spot?
nope, 3 days. I went from completely fine. Actually, I was building my shop, putting a big addition on my shop, and I just started to feel it come on. My lips started to go numb. My feet started to get numb. I started to get dizzy, and literally in 2 days, I was in a bed and could not get out of it. And it was just that quick. And that's why, at first they thought, okay, well, you know, they would come in and out of my room, these neurologists, and they would
So were
look
you in
at
the
me and then they
hospital at
would
this
leave.
time?
Oh yeah, I got rushed to the hospital.
Okay.
No idea what it was. None. And this neurologist kept coming in and out of the room and kept looking at me. And I'm like, listen, dude, I'm right here. You got to tell me what's going on here. You walk running in and out of this room doesn't help me much. And he
Sure.
said, I just think this is a really fast form of MS. And I said, I'm done. I don't want to live that life. I had a really close friend who suffered from it, and I didn't want to live that. And then he said, I can't help you. I can't help you here. So you got to go. And I ended up in Jefferson in Philadelphia, and they told me what I had. I had an autoimmune disease, a very rare one. And, that this doctor who was, I swear she was so young. And she said, we treat that like the cold here, and you'll walk out of here. And those words I just kept repeating in my head. I'm going to walk out of here. And it wasn't, I thought it would be, a couple of days to a week. It wasn't. But I just kept really thinking that, like, no, this is your hero story, man. You're going to come back from this. You're going to be bigger, better, stronger.
Sure.
And I really did use it as kind of a launch pad for everything in my life, completely changed it.
So what are some of the things you did to combat it while you were there? And did most of your symptoms, were they relieved before you left the hospital, or tell us more about that? How did
Well,
you go about treating
I
this
think,
thing?
well, the biggest part is, and I did a YouTube video that it really kind of shows the journey of me. I had this board of pictures,
Okay.
and my wife at the time had put this collage of pictures up, and in the corner there was one of me that was literally taken months before, and I was standing skiing at the top of a mountain in Utah, and I would just stare at that picture day in day out. I didn't have nothing to do, so I would just sit there and watch and look at that picture, and then I couldn't even close my eyes. My eyes would roll up into my head, and you know I would close my eyes, so to speak, and I would picture the picture, and I would build it, and I would put myself there. I got really good at creating that scene of being on that mountain, you know, and I realized I was just re-imprinting my brain of, this is what I want. If I did it to get here, I can do it to get out of here.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's really what I did. I just didn't I knew I was going to walk out. I didn't walk out. I was in a wheelchair still, but I eventually got back to 100%, no residuals at all, which is really kind of unheard of for it. And I knew that I did it. So that kind of was the launch pad for the rest of everything. It's like, man, I can create this stuff. So, and now, with quantum physics and neurologists and, scientists that are really explaining what the brain does, then that's when I realized, oh my God, this is what I did. And so I can keep going, and, I can dictate my life instead of telling myself what I can't do. Maybe I need to start telling myself what I can do. And
So how do you
really
do
changes.
that? How would you recreate those steps?
I would just really see myself as a skier again. I really would just keep it so simple. I would see myself dancing again. They used to lay me down in the rehab room. They would lay me down on these mats, and it was like a table. And they would. I bought like a little boom box, and they brought it in, and they would play music. And I remember they would play. I don't know. I can't believe I remember this, but Leanne Womack, I think it was Dance, that song. And
Okay.
I would listen to that song over and over and over and over and over again. And everybody would be so tired of it. And I would like, just keep playing it. And I would just close my eyes and see the story of my life, of being on that mountain and just walking and talking to people and telling them, listen, you can do this. I've done this. You can create this life. I know I've been laying there, I've been broken, and I am your proof that it is possible. You can do this. I really saw my whole future, and I really visualized it. And it is the imprinting of the brain. It is what you feed it. And when people start thinking about what they feed their brain every day, the thoughts and emotions that you're addicted to from childhood, and you take it into your life, suddenly you're just in fear constantly of who's going to come and get you. What are you going to catch? Is cancer on the horizon? What's going to happen to me? And how am I going to survive this stuff? Meanwhile, you have a clean bill of health. I know people that are scared to get something. They don't even have it, and they're scared to get it. And I'm like, no, you don't want to do that, because that's just putting the attention on what's going to show up for you.
So it's almost like self-fulfilling prophecies. Is that
Yeah, 100%. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So, with science today and understanding what the mind does, what's the job of the mind is just to get the body to feel, right? Mind and body connection.
sure?
So for me, having that thought of, oh my God, how do I get out of this situation? I got these people screaming at me. I'm a people pleaser, so that does not go well. I can't eat, I can't sleep. I'm working 18 hours a day, and I'm coming from a place of reaction instead of just going out and getting the ball. I'm trying to catch up to the ball. So that put me in a state of fear. These guys aren't going to pay me. They're not going to do it. How can I get out of this?
Right.
I just want to go home and go lay in bed. And then boom, all of a sudden I'm laying in bed, and then everybody starts feeling sorry for me. And then I'm getting paid. I don't have to worry about the company right then, because, what am I going to do? I don't have to get on the phone and explain myself to anybody, because again, I can't do that. So they'll have to feel sorry for me. So it all worked. It all worked, just not in the way I wanted it to work. I asked for it. I just asked for it in the wrong way. And, in doing what I do now and talking to people, that story has been repeated so many different times in people's stories in their lives. I was faced with this thing. I was scared to death. All I could think of is, how do I get out of this? And next thing I know, I was diagnosed with MS, or I was diagnosed with cancer, or I was diagnosed. And so what is that? Are we creating this stuff? Are we really creating the conditions that we suffer from? And I'm a huge proponent that we actually do, because our mind is just simply that powerful.
Well, I think right now we're under so many influences that are telling us that we're going to get sick.
Mhm.
It's definitely the conversation at every. Here we are just after Thanksgiving. I'm sure it was a conversation at every
Oh,
Thanksgiving
yeah.
table here in America, and it can be difficult to overcome the negative inputs that we have, literally from every angle. I mean, fear is the commodity these days. That's what's used to sell everything. So,
Mhm.
when you find yourself in that environment, what are some actionable steps you can take to reframe this input that's coming at us from all of these different angles?
Well, I think the first thing is to really be aware of how how the mind works. So really what is happening when you look out of your eyes, when, with your eyes, you're looking out into everything that is out there to see. Your mind is seeing 100% of it, but when that vision, when it comes back into your mind to be processed, you are only processing a very small percentage of what you see. So what are you processing? Well, if you keep thinking, red fire truck, then out there could be a red fire truck, could be a school, could be a blue car. You're going to see right away the red fire truck because you've been programming your brain red fire truck. So that's what you're going to take in. So think about what, as young kids, science has found out that our first 7 years, our brain is in theta, which is a sponge. We are a sponge for everything around us. And your parents took in that information from their parents. They did the same from their parents. So this is generational stuff that is just being looped in our mind. And here you are, you're just a little kid hiding under the blankets because your mom and dad are screaming at each other and your name keeps coming up. And then suddenly you're 45, 49 years old and you're still that little kid under the blankets. You just don't know. And fear rules your life. And it's just more events have to come so you can see the fear, just like the red fire truck. You can see the fear. So when we start to understand, wait a minute, I have a choice. And I can see the event that is coming that is making me feel fear because, hey man, I'm not gonna be able to pay my mortgage. I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent. Car's gonna get repossessed. Or, I'm gonna get cancer. I was just diagnosed with this, or now there's this new thing called COVID that I'm gonna catch that I have to cover myself in a spacesuit so I don't get. It is that actual thinking and fear that allows us to gravitate to that outcome. So during this whole COVID thing, it was crazy. I live in Florida. I don't pay any attention to news. I don't pay any attention to any of it at all.
Right.
I was out on a boat during lockdown. I was cruising around on a boat. I had the time of my life where my friends were so nervous and guys that worked for me, so scared. And I would say, don't do that because you're calling it. You're calling it. It's like calling a dog. And if it's a good dog, it's going to come. And people that were so afraid to get it, got it. And it's really interesting to see how that all works, knowing what I know now and how all that stuff starts to show up for you. So maybe we need to start looking at it differently and start understanding. And I think the number one thing that you can do is really start to understand how the mind works in a very simple way. What you think of, law of attraction, right? What you think of shows up and it's showing up for you. So if we can just be aware that what I put my thought on is coming, my mind is going to want to grab the fear thing. My mind is going to want to see the red fire truck, but I need to be able to be aware and in the moment, in that present moment to say, there is nothing here right now that I need to run from. I am not a gazelle on the plains of Africa, and I am not surrounded by lions right now, but yet we are built to, we're fight or flight. So when we are living every day on the savannah as a gazelle thinking, oh my God, I'm being surrounded by lions everywhere. Meanwhile, there's not a lion to be found anywhere, but we're waiting for them to come. They're waiting for them to come and literally eat us when it's just not the truth. And we're stuck in that fight or flight, absolutely stuck in it because we're always subjecting ourselves.
Are there exercises that people can implement to help them get out of that fight or flight?
100%.
Or I'm sorry,
100%. So
can you share some of those with us?
The number one thing is meditation. So there's two. These are the two I've used, and meditation is one, because what meditation does is it slows the brain down. It relaxes the brain. So it's not constantly being, flinching. It's not constant. Your brain and body aren't constantly being in like that flinch mode of what's coming next to hit me, So when you meditate, you slow the thought process down. You're not going to turn it off. You're not going to turn it off. And it's okay. you're slowing it down,
Help
right?
me
So
understand
that's number
meditation a
one.
little bit more, because I mean, so many times we hear meditation. I say we, I can only speak for me, but I hear meditation and I'm instantly just thinking, sitting there cross-legged, and
Right,
I don't know so much the om anymore, but
right,
yeah, you're touching the middle finger and the thumb, and you're just sitting there and
right.
you're doing your chant or whatever it is. People are coming to me all the, I literally hear people, not every day, but at least multiple times a week, going, dude, why don't you meditate? Meditation is great. Meditation is great. Why don't you meditate? Well, I feel like an idiot sitting sitting there trying to do this meditation. So help me understand, what do you do when you meditate, or what are some ways that people can maybe even reframe meditation?
Sure, for sure. So meditation, I mean, listen, I have a really good friend of mine. He'll say, you know what my meditation is? I love to sit in a deer stand and go hunting. That's my meditation.
Okay.
Surfers, they're meditating. So it doesn't mean that you're just sitting, there's Larry, look at him. He's sitting in his chair. He's got his legs tied in a pretzel, and he's crazy. That's not it at all. It's just about being in the very present moment. And I mean, like right here, right now. You're not thinking about, oh my God, I got to get my car fixed. It's not here right now. I'm probably going to get fired from my job because of this project that's due next month. It's not here right now. So you just got to get in the very present moment, slow down the mind. That's all meditation is slowing the mind down. The mind kind of runs like that. When you were a little kid and you're in the schoolyard and you got on that little merry-go-round, the little thing,
Oh yeah.
and your buddies just spun it so bad you couldn't get off it, you
Many
couldn't
times you
stay
flew
on
off.
it, right? A lot of times you flew off with body parts flying everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
your mind is doing. You have spun that merry-go-round for so many years. It is now spinning out of control. It's gaining momentum, and nobody's pushing it, so you can't get out to slow it down. So the object is to just sit there, and you can listen to music. You don't have to listen to music. You can just sit there and just be present in the moment and let the thoughts pass through. Let it go. You can look
Sure.
at it, but let the thought go through. And eventually, over time, then you start to have less thoughts, less and less thoughts. The best way is, and this is the next step, is breath work. Now, what your breath can do is it can heal your body. No question about it. It is the ultimate way to heal your body. It is the ultimate way to get out of fight or flight. Now, my wife is a Soma breath facilitator, and she's amazing at it.
What kind
And
of breath? I'm sorry, what was that?
it's a Soma. It's called Soma
Okay.
breath, and it's like an ancient, technique. And
Okay.
this is what people used, like Aborigines used, way, way, way back in the time, because they learned that through their breath, they could, calm their body down. They could calm their mind down. So it helps you get out of that state of fight or flight. It helps you relax when you're the gazelle on the savannah. You realize, oh, see, I'm stuck in this fight or flight because I think I'm seeing lions out there, when actually the breath work helps you calm down to help you see, listen, there's nothing out there. You have just been stuck in this fight or flight. So by doing breath work, it helps you energize your body. And why is that important? Larry, you could take like a stagnant pond, and the inlet to that pond, the water that comes in, is blocked off,
Mhm.
and the outlet is blocked off. So over a year of water sitting in that pond, it is going to become stagnant. Fungus growing all over it. No one's going to want to go swimming in it. So what breath work basically is releasing the gate above the pond to let all fresh water come in, and that fresh water can run through that pond and clean it out. That's what breath work does. And it's the same as meditation, except you're actually doing something in the meditation. You're breathing in, you're breathing out, you're taking deep breaths. There has been so many studies on breath work. It is insane. And why it's not even taught in schools is amazing to me, because it is the number one thing to get out of depression, anxiety, and even heal your body.
Yeah, I
Number
mean,
one thing.
any high performance athlete understands the benefits of proper breathing technique. Everything
Mhm.
you do revolves around proper breathing technique, and it's kind of interesting that we see high performers emphasize breathing and breathing properly, but just for our day-to-day health, it's never emphasized. It's never even
Never.
discussed.
Nope.
It's just that auto it's that auto action that we do to stay alive, obviously, but many of us don't do it right.
Right. And I mean, most of us don't even breathe right. I mean, we don't, we take very shallow breaths.
Yeah,
And when you think about it, it doesn't allow energy to enter your body. So really your breath is energy. It's flow. And if you have a switch and you turn the light switch off, no energy's getting through. Well, no light's going on. So it really is the same principle. And in understanding that and actually doing a practice of it, it's amazing. I mean, I have a course called the Healing Blueprint, and I have people that are very have a high anxiety that come into that course, and
sure.
just a simple thing of, okay, this is what you're going to start every day, and you're going to start doing a breath work routine, and we're going to change it up, and we want you to do different levels. And just by that, they're like, oh my God. I mean, in 3 weeks, I feel like a different person. And when I'm not in the anxiety, now I can start to see things clearer. It's not the anxiety that I'm stuck in. I'm not stuck in a stagnant pond anymore. I can kind of see now what is actually happening. And what I've been putting my attention on really has never been there. It's the fear that I've been putting my attention on, where I just realized, I don't have to be in the fear anymore. I just don't put my attention there. And that really is the win. And it is the building block. It's like climbing a ladder out of a, a 40-foot deep hole. You don't do it in one step. It takes, there's a lot of rungs on that ladder to get out of that hole. And you just have to stay on the ladder. That's all. And you fall down, but you get back on the ladder again and you get up and out. And that's really how it works. It's really simple.
Well,
And the third thing I will share
yeah,
is don't say stupid shit. Just don't say dumb stuff. Don't say dumb stuff. People say dumb stuff constantly. And
I know I'm guilty, but give me some examples of dumb stuff that people say.
well, they'll say, oh my God. I mean, anything with their job or their boss, or, well, how you doing? If somebody comes up and says, how you doing? Oh yeah, well, my back hurts and everything, all the complaints come, or yeah, my wife, she's doing this, and that's not good. Just saying dumb stuff is really, it's just self-talk. You're just talking the mind into grabbing on what you don't want. Saying dumb stuff is just really repeating stuff that you don't want. You don't want that stuff. You don't want it. You want to be able to be, you are a pretty supernatural being when you think about it. Because like I said, when I was laying in that bed, I would watch people walk in and they would use their hands. They would walk across the floor and I'd be thinking, they're not even thinking about it. They are doing that so unconsciously. So what is that I am now disconnected from? Because I had it. Now I lost it.
Right.
And it wasn't Scott. Scott was there thinking, he was laying in the bed, he was going to town in his thoughts. But there is this, you're laying in bed every night, Larry, and your heart's beating, your brain's firing, there is cells, being regenerated, trillions of them, and they're all talking to each other. Meanwhile, you're snoring, slobber coming out of your mouth, right? And we are totally unaware of what we're actually doing. And when we start to really understand what the mind and the body are doing on a second to second basis, then you're thinking, holy cow, I'm doing that. Well, maybe I can get a better job. Maybe I can maybe I can have money show up out of nowhere because I'm putting all my attention on what I don't want. Maybe I should put my attention on what I really want. Instead of being scared of getting COVID, maybe I should really think of what kind of new car I would like. So it really is
framing it, man. It's
framing all in the
mentality. It's framing that mentality. Now, that's not to say that you can't that reality still exists. It does still exist, but it's framing that reality for the best possible outcome. And, taking the steps that I took, even just this year, I left my job in January, started doing podcasting full time and launching branded podcasts as well through my media company. And I'll tell you, physically, I say never, I haven't been better in decades. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a long, long time since this person that I am, as I sit here today, has been able to be fulfilling. I've been able to be this person because I was in a bad environment. I was constantly bombarded with negativity. Now, some of that was through my own creation. There's no denying that,
Oh, it's all you.
Yeah, exactly. I put myself in rehab. Before then, I was a drunk. And this is still at the same company. I was with that company 21 years. They supported the living daylights out of me. They were tremendous. They were great. But I didn't return some of that greatness that they were giving to me. And it eventually catches up to you. It puts you in a position to where it's not fruitful for anybody. And there was no coming out of that hole. There was no digging myself out of that hole. So I could either stay there, stay in misery, stay in that muck, or I could take the action, reframe my reality, and step out and make the changes. Since doing that, I'm down 80 pounds year to date. I'm more physical than I have been. I'm getting back involved in the martial arts scene. I mean, it's just everything is coming together where it's the way it should have been in the first place before I took so many wrong turns and found myself laid up in a bed, unable to move as well.
Well, here's the question for you. And this is what we do, right? Oh, there's Larry. He's got himself in a really bad way. He's a drunk and he's an alcoholic. He's going to kill himself. And well, he's got to get to rehab. And thank God he did that. And we always think that, all the diseases that come, the situations that come. And, here you are, this alcoholic. And if it wasn't for that, you would not be doing what you're doing.
Oh, yeah. 1,000%.
So then we can say that really put you on the trajectory of your life. Your worst moment, and this is what I'm all about, your worst moment is really your greatest moment.
Yeah.
It's just in the way you perceive it. And when we start to understand, people that have, got cancer scares or whatever, had cancer, and they would say, oh my God, I need to fix this. They didn't end up healing the cancer. They ended up healing themselves. And It wasn't the cancer. The cancer got them to the table, got them on the field. Alcoholism got you on the field. Me being paralyzed and catching this autoimmune disease got me on the field. It got me on the field that I could then be great. I can then say, you know what? I don't care what anybody says. This is what I have to do. And I'm going to live my life and I'm going to be really happy doing it. And you took that moment and you said, that's enough. And I'm going to step in the ring here and I'm going to become better because of it. And all along you had to make some really difficult decisions. Do I stay in this job that I don't like? Or why would I do that? Why would I do that? I was at death's door. So I'm not going to do that again. So that made you reach. That made you say, okay, but that is what we all need to do. We forget we need to reach. We need to go through rooms on fire to find out what is waiting for us, because if you don't, you will never find what's there. So thank God for the alcohol, honestly, because it literally got you where you are.
100%. And people don't realize that. I'm a big believer in the fact that there's no growth without pain. There's just not. There's stagnation and there's existence per se, but there's no growth without that pain. And it's very similar to your statement of going through the fire. It's the same scenario, just again stated differently. So I'm right there with you, man. And the things that we're going through today definitely don't have to, as my intro says, it doesn't have to define us. Being an alcoholic 8 years ago doesn't define me. And, I'm one of those strange cats where I don't believe that I'm an alcoholic today, because I'm not. I haven't had a drink in 8 years. I'm not an alcoholic. I was, but that's gone. That doesn't define me. Now, it shaped me because it put me here having this conversation with you today. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. But that's the reframing. That's the work that people need to put in order to get themselves out of the situations that they're in today, reframe that and move forward.
Yep. And that's the thing, it really is, again, embracing what is wrong, so to speak, the condition or, the addiction. And to say, okay, man, you know, here you are, you're broadcasting and you're telling that story to so many people. And there are people that are suffering from the same condition that you suffered from. And here now you are the example to say, hey, listen, I did it. You can do it. And my life is so much better because I did it. So it really comes down to the individual. You have a choice, because whatever you are suffering from, someone has suffered from it.
Yeah.
Someone has had to move through it. There are others that are still laying in bed or not even here at all because they didn't. And maybe, again, you just have to decide, am I here to be, just to let life beat me up and to take me out? Or am I here to be great? I got this one. So I might as well give everything I got. And sometimes it has to get so bad that, again, the room on fire. Is it a little fire in a trash can in the corner? Or are you literally going to succumb to flames?
Yeah.
And they're right there in front of you. And the only way out is to go through them. And you don't know what's on the other side. But when you have people that have actually done it, that have gone down the road and they have said, this is what is available to you, then that is in the motion that we have to move. There's plenty of doctors that are going to tell you, listen, you're never going to walk again, and thank God I didn't have that doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor just kept saying, hey, listen, get up. You just got to get up. And then at the end, when I was leaving the hospital, I said, okay, so where was I? 1 to 10, 10 being the worst. You were an 8.5. And I was not expecting that. I didn't think I was that bad. And I said, what happens to a 9? They never get out of bed, dude. But I knew you could do it. And it was just, I could have got the diagnosis of, you have this and you'll never walk again.
Sure.
And I could have fallen right into a guy standing in front of me saying, predicting my fate.
Just accept
So,
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, it's using the power in which you have, the story in which you have, to launch yourself into something greater, better. So you can be greater, better.
Yeah, and it's that way for everybody. You don't have to have a podcast. You don't have to be a podcast guest. You don't need all of that to move forward and be better in your own life. You don't have to have any kind of miraculous story. You don't have to have any kind of miraculous inspiration. You just have to be able to make the decision, and that's something that each and every person can do. I promise you, the day that I had that revelation that tomorrow wasn't going to come, I had that moment of clarity. That was the decision. It came to me as I sat on the couch that is still in my living room to this day. It's still there. I sat right there on the end of that couch, tore up from the floor up, hadn't had any real food in a couple of weeks, and the time came for the decision to be made. And it wasn't an audible voice, obviously. The clouds didn't part and the roof rip off the house and someone say, Larry, tomorrow's not going to come if you don't get help today. But that voice, those words came to me in my head in a moment of clarity, and I had the opportunity to make that decision. And either I go get me another shot right now and I pass out and don't wake up, or I get on the phone and I get the help I need and I move forward. And thankfully I made the right decision. But you don't have to be anybody special to make that happen. It can happen for anybody and everybody out there.
It's the decision in which we make, and you made the decision.
Yeah.
And I think it is kind of an epidemic in our world today, is addiction, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, prescription drugs, huge. Obviously we all know that.
Yeah.
Because I just think people just don't fit anymore. They just aren't there anymore. It's just like, seriously, this is what I'm left with here. And again, it's stepping in and saying, there's more. There's more out there. You just haven't been seeing it. It's the focus on the red truck, on the red fire truck. And it just keeps showing up because we are just creatures of habit. We are creatures of habit. And, if you
easily
stay
programmed,
around,
man, we're easily programmed to victimhood.
We are a program. And when you hang out with all the people that are victims, then they don't want to see you get better.
No.
Because then that means that you got to get better. They got to get better if you got better, right? If you step through the fire, that means they got to step through the fire. It's a hell of a lot easier if you're both sitting on the same side of the fire saying, are you going? I'm not going there, right?
Well, yeah.
So you have to, it is owning who you are. And if you're going to let people's thoughts and judgments dictate your life, then you are going down the way wrong road. It needs to be about you. You need to be the example. There are people out there that have, whatever you suffer from, there are people out there that have healed themselves from it. Those are the people you need to associate with. You need to find out what they did. Listen, you don't want to hang out with your neighbor whose house is in foreclosure and he is jobless, doesn't have a dime to his name. You want to go to the next street over where the guy's over there. He's a millionaire. He's got really nice cars and he's making a lot of money doing something that he loves to do. You want to hang with that guy.
Yeah.
Because
how you can do it too.
Yeah, let some of that rub off on me so I can step into the game here, But again, it's a decision. It all starts with a step. It just has to be the right one.
Well, I think the first step is listening to this episode of You're the Boss, because Scott, you're the boss. And I appreciate you bringing it.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
So tell me more about the healing blueprint, and where can people find more information about it and reach out to you?
Sure. They can find out all the information on my website. That'll be in the show notes. It's www.thefreedomproject222.com. And it is basically what I do is I take people that they want more. It doesn't matter really. Healing is the whole gamut. I don't have enough money. I want to heal that. I have cancer. I want to heal that. How do I do it? It's really the same work. It's the same thing. It's just about surrounding yourself with the right people that are all doing the same thing that you're doing. I call it, stepping on the field instead of sitting up in the cheap seats, saying, oh, it'll never work for you. It's when you get on the field and you actually say, this has to. And no matter whatever the condition is, whether it's just like you said, addiction, there's a reason for it. And if we can look at everything in a different way, we can put a new perspective on what is happening and use it to fuel us instead of empty us, because that's what you did.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And I had to fuel myself up. You had to fuel yourself up. And what was it? As you said, it was the pain in which you were in. So that pain can be physical. It can be emotional. It can be emotional. So it's just about using the pain that you're in to launch you into the life that you have always dreamed of, but never thought possible. And that is what I am all about. Helping people, helping them understand that, listen, this is science. Here, I'm going to lay it out for you. Over weeks and weeks and weeks, I'm going to lay out why you're just creating yourself. And then once you understand that, then it's in the actual putting it all together. It's like building a house. It starts with a foundation. And then next thing you know, you're looking out beautiful windows and where you want to be with who you want to be with. It's just how it works.
Yeah.
So
good stuff. Well, Scott, man, I'm so glad we finally got to do this. Honestly, this was great. It was well worth the wait, and I appreciate every minute of it, man.
I would agree. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate having me on, man.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Hey, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. And if you like what you heard, this is the first time listening, do me a favor, subscribe to the show so I can bring you fresh new content every Tuesday of the week. And until then, I'll see you. Take care.